Why do certain athletes gravitate towards certain sports? Think back to when you were a kid. What sport was fun? Or what activities were fun? And think about why they were fun. Most often, they were fun because you were either good at them or you were winning. What's one of the things that you hear kids say when they're not winning? This isn't fun. Why are we doing this? If you're good at it, you're having fun. If you're winning, you're having fun. And so what helps you win? When you have advantages. If you have genetic advantages, let's just say you're taller than everyone else and you're playing basketball. It's going to be a lot easier because you're able to reach up and go above them to the rim because the rim is up, right? What about soccer? If you're shorter, it might help you, or faster, it might help you. But if I'm super tall, it's going to be hard because I take one step, my legs open up, and boom, I can pass the ball through your legs. We call that a nutmeg. So there are certain advantages to being tall in basketball. There are certain advantages to being short in soccer. Now, there are limits to these things, of course. If I'm too tall and I'm not coordinated, right, then I'm probably not going to be good at basketball. You still need to be coordinated. Same thing with soccer. So there are limits to what I'm talking about, but over time, as you weed through, right, and you get through junior high, high school, and you make it into college, and then obviously the pros, it's a lot easier to see. So take someone like LeBron James. LeBron James, 6'8", 6'9" tall. He was a great football player. Athletic, great hands, a lot of speed, can jump out the gym. But he chose basketball. Why? He had better genetic advantages because of that height, being 6'8", 6'9", to play a sport like basketball. On top of that, he had really good hand-eye coordination that allowed him to be able to dribble the ball, to shoot the ball. In football, yes, you have to have hand-eye coordination to catch the ball, but really, it's more about power and speed. If I can catch the ball well, right, I can just grab it and I can run and I can bulldoze through people. Yes, there's a lot of technicality. You do have to be smart, but what's more technical? A sport like basketball, where you have to dribble, dribble, dribble. If you pick the ball up, you can't dribble anymore because you're going to travel. Or a sport like football, you grab the ball, you can run, right? As long as you have the ball in your hand, you can just run and bulldoze and bush into people. Basketball, you have to make sure you're not going to foul someone, all right? There's lots of little moving pieces. So his genetic advantages pushed him to choose basketball. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, if you're shorter, right, and let's go even shorter, like there are tall soccer players because they're athletic, they're quick, they've got good foot-eye coordination. But what about someone who's on the very short end of the spectrum? You could say like a jockey, right? You want to be very lightweight on top of a horse so that you can go as fast as possible. That's why jockeys are really, really, really small. What about gymnasts? Gymnasts tend to be extremely small, not extremely small, but smaller people as well. Why? Why would a gymnast want to be small? Well, if your sport is all about leverage, creating leverage to hold yourself in a certain position, hold yourself on the rings, do handstands, do all this crazy stuff with your body. If I'm taller and I have these long levers, long limbs, it's going to be much harder to hold myself in that position because the strength required at those positions is going to be incredible. So you have advantages there. Even take a sport now, kind of mixing in the two. I want to be tall in a sport like swimming, right? Because if I take one stroke, I can go further, all right? Or it's less work to do one, whereas someone shorter is going to have to do 3 little strokes. But on top of that, what are some characteristics of swimmers? They have long torsos and short legs. Think about it. If you take that long stride with your arm and you're swimming and moving through the water, right, versus someone who has short arms swimming through, same height, right, or longer torso, shorter legs, right, my body is able to get there quicker, right, with those little legs going versus someone who's got real long legs that might drag them down into the water and again, be harder for them to create that force, right, and pull themselves through. Well, and then on the other end, you got someone with long legs, shorter torso, probably better for a sport like running, where they can take a big stride and it be easier for them. Again, someone has to take 1.5 or 2 strides to keep up with someone with long legs at the same speed. Easier, you're gonna have that advantage and you're going to excel. So when you talk about why you're in certain sports, look at your genetic advantages and play to your strengths. Everybody wants to be something, right? I want to, be taller. I want to be stronger. I want to be this. I want to be that. Well, you are who you are. You can, excel at certain things that you're not necessarily genetically gifted at. So I'm not saying that you're limited to what your genetics are, but it helps. Like I said, you have more fun, it's more enjoyable, but when you take things out to the professional level, almost all of these people are built for that sport. Yes, there are outliers, we can get into those things, but the mass majority, the massive majority have these genetic advantages. That's why I say the sport chooses the athlete, not the other way around. You can do anything you want, but I would say play to your strengths. What have you got basic, right? What's the basic thing about you that you can excel at? And some people, it isn't sports. And this conversation isn't you, right? But in regard to sports, the sport chooses the athlete. So again, think about those genetic advantages. And just a side note, what country is really who understands this as at the national level? China. China goes in and they take muscle biopsies of their kids. They do limb and torso and all these different measurements. When you're a kid, they look at your parents and they say, what did that muscle come out as? Are you slow twitch or are you fast twitch, right? Are you someone that's going to be good at sprinting or someone that's going to be good at long distance? Are you short? Are you tall? Are you stocky? Do you have short limbs? Do you have long limbs? And they go, you're going to do this sport. Well, I'm not saying that we should implement that into our programs because we want to have freedom of choice. But at the end of the day, once you get to those high levels, you're going to get weeded out if you don't have those genetic advantages. So play to your strengths, play to your strengths, play to your strengths. What have you got and how can you use that to your advantage? If you're tall, play a tall sport. If you're short, play a short sport. If you're somewhere in between, which a lot of us are, what are some other advantages that you have? Do you have really good hand-eye coordination? Do you have really good foot-eye coordination? Those things can come into play when you're making that decision about what sport you want to play. So that's my little rant on sport. But again, think about that when you're looking at some of these athletes. It's not just about hard work. Yes, they do put in a ton of hard work, but a lot of it is about those genetic advantages, and they played to those strengths probably early on, and then that allowed them to excel and go up the ranks and then hone their skills as they stayed and they had time to develop them. So sport, choose the athlete, play to your strengths. Thank you.